My name is Grace Mitchell, and I'm 34 years old. 3 months ago, I stood outside my sister's $200,000 wedding while 500 guests celebrated inside, because she decided I wasn't successful enough to attend. The small envelope I left at the reception desk that night would later cost her a $2.8 million penthouse and completely redefine what success meant in our family. Before I share what really happened that night and the shocking aftermath, I just want to say, if you appreciate stories about standing up to toxic family expectations, you'll connect with this one. Now let me take you back to that evening, the night everything changed between my sister Victoria and me. The St. Regis Hotel on 5th Avenue looked like something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers glowed across the marble floors, and I could hear the string quartet warming up inside the ballroom. Victoria had spent 18 months planning this wedding, and from what I'd seen on Instagram, she'd spared no expense. I smoothed down my simple black cocktail dress, a $200 Nordstrom rack find I thought was perfect. But watching guests glide past in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, I suddenly felt small. These weren't just wedding guests. They were Victoria's new world. Tech founders, investors, CEOs, people whose vacation homes were worth more than most people's life savings. Name, please. The receptionist behind the desk smiled politely, iPad in hand. Grace Mitchell. I'm the bride's sister. She scrolled, frowned slightly, and tried again. Could you spell that? I did. Her expression tightened. I'm sorry, Miss Mitchell. Your name isn't on the list. Maybe you're a +1. No. I RSVP'd 2 months ago, I said, showing her the confirmation email. She bit her lip. Would you mind stepping aside for just a moment? I'll call the coordinator. But deep down I already knew. Victoria didn't make mistakes. Not with seating charts or guest lists. I stepped aside, clutching my phone, and called her. She answered on the third ring, sounding distracted and giddy. Grace, what is it? I'm walking down the aisle in 30 minutes. Victoria, I'm at the check-in desk. They can't find my name. There was silence, not confusion but calculation. Then her tone shifted, colder, sharper. Oh, that. A pause. Did you really think you'd be invited, Grace? My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? I'm your sister. You sent me an invitation. That was before Robert's investors confirmed. Do you understand who's here? Founding partners, Goldman board members, Robert's executive team. I can't have my underemployed sister mingling with them. It's embarrassing. Underemployed? I repeated quietly. I've worked in real estate for 8 years. Playing with house showings isn't a career. Look, this is about image, Grace. You're 34, single, and barely making rent. It doesn't fit what we're building tonight. I stood frozen as she spoke, every word landing like a slap. Behind me, the lobby shimmered with laughter and luxury. The world she'd chosen over me. I understand perfectly, I said finally. Good, she replied, relief in her tone. We'll do lunch next month. I hung up. Then I reached into my clutch and pulled out a small cream envelope, the one I'd meant to give her during the reception. It wasn't the $500 cash I'd scraped together. It was something far more valuable, something that would change everything. I handed it to the coordinator. Please make sure Victoria gets this. It's her wedding gift. Walking out of the St. Regis that night, I thought about all the time she'd mocked my career, ever since I left my corporate accounting job to become a realtor. You're throwing away your degree, she'd said. Real estate is for people who can't handle real work. Every family dinner became a comparison contest. Victoria arrived with her luxury clients and 6-figure bonuses. Mom and Dad would beam with pride, then turn to me. How's the house selling going, Grace? Mom would ask like I was running a lemonade stand. It's good, I'd say simply, never mentioning the luxury listings or high-profile clients I'd earned. Why bother? In their eyes, I was the lesser sister. Last Christmas was the worst. Victoria, newly engaged, bragged about her income, her Hamptons property, her 5-year plan. You're not getting any younger, she'd said. You should think about your future. Real estate isn't a retirement plan. Maybe Victoria could get you a job at her company, Mom added. I'm doing fine, I replied, sipping my wine. Fine isn't thriving, Victoria snapped back. When Robert's company goes public, we'll be set for life. What's your plan? Selling houses forever. I wanted to tell them about the Blackstone opportunity already in motion, the portfolio I was about to manage, but I didn't. They'd already decided who I was. What they didn't know was that while Victoria was climbing a corporate ladder, I was quietly building an empire of my own, one that would soon make her definition of success look small. And that wedding night was just the beginning of how she'd find out. Oh, Grace, sorry, it's been so crazy. You know how it is. Except I didn't know. I was 34, single, and constantly reminded of it, especially by my sister Victoria. The family group chat for her wedding had started without me. I only discovered it existed because Mom accidentally sent me a screenshot meant for someone else. There it was: Victoria, Mom, our aunts, cousins, everyone but me. When I asked Mom about it, she fumbled, "Oh honey, we just didn't want to make you feel bad. You know, since you don't have experience with these things." These things. Like I couldn't possibly understand flower arrangements or venues without a ring on my finger. Then came the bridesmaid list. Victoria chose her 3 college roommates, Robert's sister, and 2 cousins I didn't even realize she still spoke to. When our aunt asked why I wasn't included, Victoria laughed. "Oh, Grace isn't the bridesmaid type. She's more comfortable behind the scenes." Behind the scenes. Invisible. The single sister who didn't fit the aesthetic. But the final erasure, the one that should have warned me about what was coming, happened just a month ago. Victoria posted a long emotional tribute to the women who shaped her journey. She thanked her mentor, her yoga instructor, even her hairdresser. But my name? Nowhere. I had become the ghost at every family event, the placeholder at dinners, the one they only mentioned when they needed to feel superior. And for far too long I let them. I smiled through it, stayed quiet through the comparisons, and played my part as the family's cautionary tale. The reminder of what happens when you don't follow the traditional path. But ghosts have a way of haunting people when they least expect it. Standing outside the St. Regis that night, watching the glamorous crowd stream inside, I realized I had a choice. I could fight for a seat at their table, 'cause a scene begged security, demand Victoria face me, or I could walk away. The old me would have fought to belong. But as I stood there, clutching that envelope, I understood something vital. Some tables aren't worth sitting at. If I walked away, I'd lose any hope of reconciling with my extended family, the cousins from California, my great-aunt from Boston. I'd become the story they whispered for years. Poor Grace. Still single, still struggling, still selling houses. And maybe that hurt most, knowing I'd lose my place in the family altogether. But as the doorman asked gently, "Would you like me to call you a cab, miss?" I smiled. "No, thank you. I'm fine." And surprisingly I was, because for the first time losing their approval felt like freedom. Keeping my self-respect mattered more than keeping my seat. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Where are you? Ceremony starting soon." I replied. "Victoria uninvited me. I'm going home." 3 dots appeared. Then vanished. Then appeared again. Finally, one last text. There must be a misunderstanding. But there wasn't. For the first time in years, everything was clear. I turned my back on the St. Regis, the glowing windows, the laughter, the illusion of belonging, and walked away. Some bridges are meant to burn. Some doors are meant to stay closed. And sometimes walking away is the most powerful thing you can do. If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, you'll understand what happened next. Back at the reception desk earlier, I'd handed the cream envelope to the coordinator. It wasn't large, more like the kind that comes with flowers. I'd been carrying it for weeks, waiting to give it to Victoria at the perfect moment, maybe during the toasts or our sister dance. I borrowed the receptionist's pen and wrote carefully, "Wedding gift for Victoria Mitchell. Please ensure she receives this after the ceremony." She smiled politely. "Of course, Miss Mitchell. I'll deliver it to the bridal suite." "No," I said softly. "Not yet. During the reception, when she's surrounded by her investors and friends. The timing matters." She nodded, confused, but agreed. What kind of sister leaves a gift and walks away from her own sibling's wedding? The kind who's about to change everything. Outside, New York was alive. Horns, laughter, neon lights reflecting on wet pavement. Inside, 500 people toasted to what Victoria thought was her perfect life. I walked 3 blocks to my favorite restaurant, ordered pasta arrabbiata and a glass of Chianti, and waited. Half an hour later, my phone started to buzz violently. It slid across the table from the sheer number of vibrations. 47 missed calls from Victoria. 23 frantic texts. Grace, what is this? Is this real? Please call me. I'm sorry. 15 messages from Mom. What did you do? Victoria's having a breakdown. Answer your phone. Even Robert called 8 times. I silenced the phone and smiled. Everything's perfect, I told the waiter. And I meant it. For the first time in my life, I felt in control. Not because I'd hurt anyone, but because I'd finally stopped accepting the role of family failure. I could picture the scene at the St. Regis. Victoria in her $30,000 gown, surrounded by power players, clutching my business card with trembling hands, the one that read, Grace Mitchell, Senior Vice President, Real Estate Acquisitions, Blackstone Real Estate Partners, 345, Park Avenue, New York, and on the back in my handwriting. I was going to announce this at your reception and give you the keys to the riverside penthouse you loved. But it seems successful people don't belong at your wedding. Congratulations on your marriage. The penthouse will be donated to charity in your name. 6 months earlier, I'd quietly accepted a senior executive role at Blackstone, the largest real estate investment firm in the world, managing a $500 million portfolio. My salary was higher than Victoria and Robert's combined income. The penthouse she'd once dreamed of owning? I'd bought it in cash. It was supposed to be my wedding gift to her. A surprise that said, success doesn't have to look like yours. But that key now belonged to the women's shelter of New York. By Sunday morning, my voicemail was full 127 missed calls, desperate apologies and disbelief. Mom's final message said it all. You sell houses, Grace. How could this be true? Even with the truth staring them in the face, they couldn't believe it. That's the thing about people who build their worth on appearances. They can't recognize quiet success when it's standing right in front of them. James called up to my office at 9:15 a.m. sharp. Miss Mitchell, there's a woman downstairs asking to see you. She says it's urgent. Her name is Victoria. I took a slow sip of my coffee, staring out at the Manhattan skyline from my 42nd floor corner office. Tell security to escort her out politely, I said. Yes, ma'am, James replied, no hesitation. That's what I loved about Blackstone. Professionalism, boundaries, respect. Things I'd fought my whole life to have. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. This time a message from Sarah. She's in the lobby crying, Grace. Your mom's calling everyone saying she just wants to apologize. I typed back a single response. Some apologies come too late. Victoria had spent her life defining worth through appearances. The right husband, the right address, the right friends. But now every illusion had crumbled. Her investors knew who the real success story in the Mitchell family was, and it wasn't her. A week later, The Real Deal published an article titled, The Power Shift, Grace Mitchell's Rise from Realtor to Real Estate Royalty. They mentioned the penthouse donation, a symbol of humility and empowerment in a cutthroat industry. The photo accompanying it showed me in my office, confident, calm, and exactly where I belonged. Victoria didn't reach out again. Not for the holidays. Not for my birthday. Not when Mom and Dad tried to convince me to make peace. But peace wasn't something to be given. It was something I'd already earned the moment I chose self-respect over acceptance. I still think about that night sometimes. About the girl standing outside the St. Regis in a $200 Nordstrom dress, clutching an envelope and wondering if walking away would cost her everything. It did. But it also gave me something infinitely more valuable. Freedom. Because sometimes losing your place at their table is the only way to build one of your own. And sit at the head of Miss Mitchell, there's a Victoria Mitchell in the lobby, insisting she's your sister. Security won't let her up without your approval. I glanced at the security monitor on my desk. There she was in her designer suit arguing with the front desk. She looked smaller now, fragile. The confident marketing director who once dismissed me at her wedding was gone. In her place stood someone who finally realized what she'd thrown away. She doesn't have an appointment, I said flatly. Our policy is clear. Understood, Miss Mitchell. I'll inform security, James replied. On the monitor, I watched security explain that she couldn't access the elevator without clearance. Victoria pulled out her phone. Seconds later, mine began to ring. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was desperate. I'm in your lobby, Grace. Please, just 5 minutes. I know I hurt you. I know I was wrong. But we're sisters. That has to mean something. Please. We were sisters when it was convenient, when she needed something, or when my success suddenly made me worth knowing. Instead of calling, I composed an email. Subject: Boundaries, Victoria. Boundaries are not suggestions. They're not negotiable, nor erased by apologies or blood relations. You made it clear at your wedding that status was your entry ticket to family. Now that you've realized I've surpassed that requirement, you want to change the rules. But that's not how this works. I wish you and Robert happiness in your marriage. I hope your careers flourish and that you find your dream home through your own efforts. But I will not be part of your life moving forward. This isn't punishment or revenge. It's a choice, the same kind of choice you made when you removed my name from your guest list. The only difference is that I'm being honest about mine. Please don't come to my office again. Security has your photo now. Grace, I watched her read it on her phone. Her shoulders sagged. She stood there another 10 minutes, maybe hoping I'd change my mind, before walking out into the bright Manhattan morning. That was the last time Victoria tried to contact me directly. The family pressure went on for months, but I stayed firm. Some boundaries once set should never be moved. The consequences of that wedding night rippled through Victoria's perfect little world in ways she never imagined. It began with Robert's investors. 3 of them were my clients, something Victoria only discovered later, when they asked Robert why his wife had uninvited one of their top real estate advisors. The founding partner from Sequoia Capital didn't mince words. Your wife uninvited Grace Mitchell? The same Grace who manages my family's $30 million portfolio? That's remarkably poor judgment. New York's startup community is smaller than people think. Word spread fast that Robert's wife had publicly humiliated a senior VP from Blackstone, someone many of them relied on for investment deals. 2 investors pulled out of Robert's Series B funding round, citing concerns about the leadership team's decision-making. But the real blow came from his own board. Sarah later told me that Robert's company held an emergency meeting 3 weeks after the wedding. Having a spouse who alienated major financial players wasn't the image they wanted for their CEO. He wasn't fired, but a new policy was introduced. No more spousal involvement in company-related events. Translation: Victoria was officially uninvited from the very world she'd fought so hard to belong to. Meanwhile, my career soared. The Wall Street Journal ran a feature on young leaders in real estate, my photo front and center. It mentioned the $500 million portfolio I managed, the record-breaking deals I closed, and that I was the youngest SVP in Blackstone's history. Mom sent me the clipped article with a note. So proud of you, sweetheart. Always knew you'd make something of yourself. Revisionist history at its finest. Victoria and Robert's social media went silent. No honeymoon photos. No Mr. and Mrs. posts. Sarah mentioned that Victoria had taken a mental health break, which in corporate language meant she was too ashamed to show her face. The golden couple who had it all, the glamorous wedding, the prestige, the image, had lost everything in a single night. All because Victoria couldn't see value in people beyond their titles. 6 months passed. The family's attempts to reconcile shifted from desperate to defeated. Mom still called monthly with the same line. She's your sister, Grace. Family forgives. And family respects, I'd reply. When Victoria learns that, we can talk about forgiveness. The family split into 2 camps. Aunt Patricia and Uncle James, who'd witnessed everything firsthand, supported me. Others, who only heard Victoria's edited version, called me cruel. I didn't care. I was too busy living. 8 months after the wedding, I was promoted to executive vice president. A $1.2 billion portfolio. A team of 12 analysts. The Financial Times covered it. This time Victoria didn't call. But Sarah told me she printed the article and cried at her desk. She keeps telling people you two are just going through a rough patch, Sarah said over coffee. That you'll come around eventually. And what do you tell her? I asked. The truth. That you've moved on. That you're dating the architect from Tribeca. That you're happy. I was happy. David was everything my parents would have approved of, successful, grounded, kind. The irony? I found him only after I stopped seeking their approval. Victoria, meanwhile, was unraveling. The woman who'd built her image on success was now a cautionary tale. Robert's company went through layoffs. He stayed, but the strain showed. Their perfect Instagram life had vanished. She still texted me every few weeks. I never replied, but I read them. I think about that night every day. I'm in therapy now, learning about toxic family patterns. I was wrong about everything. I miss my sister. That one almost broke me. Almost. But then I remembered standing outside the St. Regis, being told I wasn't enough. I remembered 8 years of being belittled, mocked, dismissed. Some bridges, once burned, light the way forward. That fire illuminated a life where I was valued, respected, and truly seen. A life that didn't include Victoria. 1 year later, I sat in my corner office, executive vice president now, overlooking Central Park. James knocked. Miss Mitchell, your 3 o'clock is here. Send them in, I said. Maria Santos from the women's shelter entered, beaming. Grace, I had to tell you in person. The Riverside penthouse sale closed yesterday. $3.2 million. That'll keep our shelter open for 7 more years. That's wonderful, Maria. 43 women have already gone through our program because of you. Women who were told they were worthless, and you helped them believe they're enough. After she left, I stood at the window. Somewhere out there, Victoria was living her life. Still married, still posting carefully curated photos of a life that looked successful. Sometimes the most expensive gift you can give yourself is walking away from those who can't see your value. Even if they share your last name. Even if they beg for another chance. Because self-respect, that's the only success that truly matters.